Hey, 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 the moon is still in Sag. Still in Sag. It ingresses into Capricorn tomorrow, and you know what that means. It's gonna get crunchy again, more towards the 13th. But Saturn is now stationed direct. Yay, things will start moving faster. Things are gonna start moving a lot faster. So we've got a lot coming up here. I've got my glasses. How are you doing? We've got the moon in Sagittarius. It will be starting to square off with Neptune, so we might hear about some issues out at sea. There might be more volcanic activity. We saw some of that today. We saw the earthquake in Hawaii. All of that was pretty much, I didn't predict Hawaii, but I did predict more earthquakes. So seismic activity from the 10th into the 11th. That's all up on Patreon. Hey, how you doing, Chris? Chris is my wonderful assistant. She makes sure all of the links to my recordings for the readings get out to the people I have read for. I don't use the recordings for anything. They're just for your reference. It's a very private, safe space, and Chris just makes sure they get to where they need to go, and I appreciate that. It saves my eyeballs. We've got some pretty big energy still coming up, like I've been talking about all year long. October is a very, very pivotal month. This last quarter of 2021 is going to be extreme. It's just going to keep giving. And as I said before, I saw less of COVID being a factor, more logistics, supply chain, and weather. And so we're starting to see that come into play. So let's just take a look. Hey, well, congratulations. You turned 24. That's awesome. So, yep. So, anywho, guys, so what else we have? We've got Jupiter stationing direct on the 17th, and it'll be in direct motion on the 18th when Mercury stations direct. We've got just another week or so of Mercury retrograde. Mercury retrograde has not been the problem. Once again, everybody knows just enough about astrology to be dangerous. It was the Mercury square Pluto that caused most of the discomfort. Mercury is now no longer square Pluto. It's retrograde, but it gives things like, I put the wrong freaking dates on my latest video, so I had to put a pinned post saying, Mercury got me. Oh, thank you for the fire. Hey, kiddo. So Mercury is annoyances. It's little mistakes. It's hiccups. Okay, it's overlooking things. It might be a big, hiccup or oversight, but it tends to be oversights. The really big emotional crunchy stuff tends to be other things. Like I said, the really big stuff at the beginning of Mercury retrograde is it was square Pluto. That is a lot of energy. That's huge. Okay, so if you're born during a Pluto it isn't about easier. It's not about that. Well, Pluto's direct now anyway, but retrograde motion is an internalized process. So you get that energy because you get it, and direct is an externalized process. It's neither good nor bad. Okay, retrogrades are neither good nor bad. It's just the way energy is expressed. That's why it's really hard to find actual information on it, because traditionally astrologers don't see it as all of that big deal. We mostly kind of joke around about Mercury retrograde because it's annoying things happen. You're rushing, you're not looking over things, there's hiccups, what have you. But it's honestly not that big a deal. There are bigger deals. Whether it's just the way the energy expresses, So everybody, you have to understand, you're all unique. You're all very special. Nobody has the same chart. Even twins don't have the same chart. Everybody is unique and individual and special in their own right. That whole idea of being normal or conformist is arbitrary human imposition, and it's absolutely crazy. We can be individuals and still function very, very well as a collective. I will argue till the day is long, the more self-actualized you are, the better you are at working collectively, because you understand the need for working with other people. We're not islands. Human beings are social creatures. So things are neither good nor bad. They simply are. So Thank you. Yeah. Yeah, it's a setting on a washing machine. It's not a human thing. So the stuff we're walking into, the 15th is like a serious day. Mercury, even though it'll be retrograde, Mercury is going to sextile Venus and Sag. And as I was talking about last week, Venus and Sagittarius is going to be about the global financial markets from a mundane perspective, okay, from mundane astrology, and that's the prediction of events, happenings, the weather, seismic events, politics, etc. Okay, it's a very mass consciousness. It's a very physical level. We interpret from the most physical possible level. We're not up in the mental plane or the higher level energies. We're in the denser energies with mundane astrological interpretation. And so with Mercury sextiling Venus, I think we're going to see some real evidence that the entire global economy is very, very shaky, and we may start to see it start to have some real serious issues. So keep your eye on things, watch the news. I think it probably has to do with Evergrande in China and their real estate market. It's just kind of what's going on, and it kind of matches up to what I'm seeing. That would be my biggest bet, but we may see some surprise news come out as well. And then what happens after that? Well, on the 17th, Jupiter stations direct. Jupiter tends to also deal with finances. It's also a magnifying lens, so it's going to really stir things up collectively because it's in Aquarius, so it's looking at society structures as a whole. And then Mercury stations direct, and so misinformation gets corrected. News is just going to shoot out. It's going to be like a fire hose. That's the 18th. Jupiter will then be in direct motion. Mercury is stationed that day, and God knows what'll go on. We'll probably see some accidents and stuff that day as well, just because that's a lot of energy. And then the 19th, we're getting what I'm calling the T-square of boom. Notice I didn't say doom, but it is boom. And that is because the moon will be in opposition to Mars in Libra, and both will be squaring Pluto in Capricorn. I know it's no fun if you're a cardinal sign. This is all in opposition to my sun and squaring my moon. So with the moon in opposition, so it's T-square city. Have fun with that. Somebody offered me a bunker for that day, and I was like, no, I'm just going to stand and take the blast. It's just, God knows what's going to happen. It could be a power up on a personal level. It's a lot of energy. Looking at things right now, I think it'll probably be some volcanic action. Again, it's possible some conflict starting to stir up in different parts of the world. That because the action on the 19th happens really, really kind of in the evening on the West Coast, it's probably happening outside of the Western Hemisphere, but it could also be volcanic. And since we have active volcanoes going on right now, we've got a lot of seismic activity, so yeah. So Sicily is erupting now. Yeah. It could be a lot of different volcanoes. We're in for a lot more seismic and volcanic activity anyway, because Uranus is in Taurus. Just that alone increases the likelihood. I don't know. Back in the spring, I did a video about why I was calling so much seismic and volcanic activity. And just Uranus in Taurus indicates increase of volcanic activity. But we have Saturn direct now. And so this shakes things up a little bit. Kind of lucky Uranus is retrograde, so I don't think we're going to have anything huge, but it still could be sizable with that 19th, because with the moon in opposition to Mars, everything squaring off with Pluto, that's a huge amount of release of energy. It's reflecting that, so it's a lot. On a personal level, you can have a great day, okay? So regardless of the mundane predictions about possible world events, you still have agency, and you can have a great day. You could just focus on yourself. That's all you can do. Unless it personally impacts you anyway, why would you over-identify with an activity or an event that doesn't deeply impact you? You can have empathy for people without letting your whole life be ruined by something that does not directly impact you. Okay? I don't I don't understand that. I don't understand when a tragedy happens, if it doesn't directly impact you, having it. Yeah, you can hear Malcolm. He's all itchy. I need to get him to the vet for his allergy shot. But if an event doesn't really impact you personally, don't just own it. It's really not fair to the people who are directly impacted by it. As somebody who had a trauma-filled childhood, the people who found out about it later, who owned and used my trauma to give themselves some kind of meaning, it was really insulting. My life is so upset because something happened to my niece or whatever. It felt really rude to me. So I try really hard not to own other people's misfortune as part of my life. I can feel bad for people, absolutely. But if it doesn't directly impact you, have empathy, certainly do what you can to help people out, but don't own that crap. It's not yours to own. Yeah, right? It really is. It is rude. I don't understand owning tragedies that aren't directly yours. So yeah, exactly. Energy does go where we put our attention. Do you have to? I've been telling people to stock up on food for months. Look at the supply chain. And is that going to get better next year? They keep saying, oh, we'll rectify it. No, they're not going to rectify it. We're in for a bumpy ride supply chain wise for quite a while. So partly because it's not just the supply chain itself, we also have poor growing conditions with climate change. So yeah, don't hoard. Never hoard. I've talked about this all year. Don't hoard. Leave some for your neighbor. It just takes, for the foreseeable future. Always buy a little extra when you go to the grocery store and grow whatever you can. Grow whatever you can. It's going to be a very, very inclement winter. Especially if you're east of the Rockies. And when I say east of the Rockies, I mean literally everything east of the frickin' Rocky Mountains. North to south, Florida included, Maine included, everything in the middle, Midwest to the Southwest, that is east of the Rockies. All of it. All of it. All of it, east of the Rockies. I will not repeat that one again. East of the Rockies. We're going to make a t-shirt in my Patreon for east of the Rockies. It's very clear geography, right? So, yeah, exactly. It's going to be very cold in New York. Have fun with that. Yeah. Mountain states, it's just going to be extra snow. Rocky Mountains will get extra snow, but you should already be starting to get cold. It's an early winter. It lasts well past spring. So I've been talking about this for months. I've been warning people for months. You want to know more, go to my podcast. So I really want to talk about this T-square and the full moon. That's what I'm going to be talking about here. The T-square happens on the 19th, later in the evenings. California will be dry and mostly warm. We're not going to get a cold winter. It'll be dry. So when I talk about east of the Rockies, that's where I mean it's going to be severe. It'll be wet and possibly cold up in the Northwest, but not uber cold. And then the Southwest will remain dry. We're not going to get out of our drought, which is unfortunate. We might get lucky with some rain. I would use any kind of water collection I could for my garden if I were you. We're going to put out little pots for it. But in general, I've been warning about this. If you want to know more and you want to have, you're east of the Rockies, North Carolina, New Jersey, you're east of the Rockies. Come on, didn't you guys study geography? East of the Rockies. Sorry, I'm starting to get annoyed by that. East of the Rockies. You can listen to my podcast. You can join Patreon for up-to-date information. Every 2.5 days, I give the information. So I want to talk about what's most important right now. Right, Rita? Oh my God, I need to talk to you. We need to set up a date for doing some graphics. One of them was going to be east of the Rockies. And I'm not angry. I'm a Scorpio rising. But yeah, so no, when I say east of the Rockies, I mean everybody east of the Rockies. It's really simple. Get out a map, look at the Rocky Mountains, look east of that. Bob's your uncle. There you go. That's your answer. If you're west of the Rockies, it's variable. So anyway, I'm going to open up my M&Ms after that because it's been a day. So, so anywho, the T-square of boom happens later in the evening on the West Coast, which means closer to the middle of the night for, I got peanut M&Ms because you guys got me thinking about them last week. Hang on, I got to duck off camera. Jeez, this thing didn't want to open up. I had to like use force. So, aw, thank you, Molly. Happy 1010. Honestly, all of those portal things have nothing to do with astrology. The universe doesn't care about arbitrary dates that we give them. But if enough human beings actually think something is important, they generate energy to make it so because we create our own reality. But in astrology, those mean nothing. The universe doesn't care if we call October Oculus or Zerblat. And if we named things backwards, it wouldn't care, you know. So we're looking at the cosmic movement and the cosmic clock. So what's a T-square? That's a great question. A T-square is when we have two celestial bodies in opposition and they're squaring off with a singular planet. So we've got on the 19th, we'll have the moon in opposition to Mars. And they'll be squaring off, both of them, Pluto. So Mars will be squaring Pluto. That in and of itself is a lot of energy. And then we have the moon squaring off with Pluto, and the moon and Mars will be in opposition. That's just a lot of energy. Hey, how's the astrology, kids? Right? Well, you guys started it. You got me going last week on the M&Ms. Getting you craving, huh? Thanks. I haven't described it because people have been asking me where things are east of the Rockies. But I'm just being snarky now. So we can expect a lot of energy. I did talk a little bit about seismic and volcanic activity with that one. But I also think we're going to get some really big news on the finances. Because right beforehand, we have Mercury and Venus in sextile right before Mercury stations direct on the 15th. I think we're going to get some really bad financial news globally. And I think it honestly has to do with the Chinese real estate market, which is a much bigger deal. One of the things I saw is after I had forecasted some financial unrest, I went and I looked up headlines. And there was a lot of money being spent in Forbes and Inc., etc., on saying, oh no, it's not going to be like Lehman Brothers, but some bigger global banks have been stating concerns. So if the Chinese real estate market goes, and they're not doing residential housing, they're building factories, they're building entire cities that aren't going to work, and that money also probably impacts manufacturing. So it hits manufacturing hard. We import a lot of stuff from China. Most of the world does. And then it'll impact trade in a lot of different ways, and it'll affect any of the companies in this country that invested in those things. So it's a little, we're going to be, I told you this roller coaster starts going in October. Well, we're starting that vertical dive, and that is a big boom energy. Just you know, Mars square Pluto's big boom energy. Moon opposite Mars, big boom energy. All of that happening together with the moon square Pluto, Mars square Pluto, moon in opposition. It could, like I said, be volcanic. It could be seismic. It could be actual conflict between countries. I don't think it's us. I don't think the U.S. is obviously starting anything. I don't think that's it. I think we might see some regional stuff. But there's a lot of countries having energy crises right now. I just saw that Lebanon had to, their power plants ran out of fuel. You know, so there's a lot of places we're seeing the effects of the misallocation of resources globally. We're seeing the financial inequity. COVID has hit everybody hard. And we have climate change. So I think we could see some extreme weather as well. So I'll be giving updates more Yeah, I think I'm gonna start putting the lives only like for like Patreon. We'll see. I haven't decided. I might put it up on YouTube. I do for my patrons because they've asked for it. But I may make it part of my Patreon tiers. So, and then I'll just do YouTube specific content. I'm still looking at moving. I'm not in the right spot for doing a lot of recording that I'd like to do. So today I saw a lot of ways I can restructure. I'm working on that, restructuring my time, because I was really wanting to do a lot of readings, get people ready for the fall and winter of 2021, early 2022. So yeah. Well, Denmark's a very, very small country. I think it's important not to compare countries by volume. Remember, I'm a political analyst first, and then I became an astrologer, and I think it's always a big mistake to compare a country with a few million people to a country with 300 million people. There's inequity all over the world. And there's a north-south divide on resources as well. And so a lot of times in either in Western or Northern countries, they utilize a lot of the resources from the less developed and exploited South. And so I think we need to rework how we do everything. So big decision meeting. Oh wow, good luck with that. What's going to happen for winter? It's going to be very harsh depending on where you live. If you're east of the Rockies, it's going to be really inclement. You want to be ready for that. I've been talking about that for months and months. You can go look on my podcast. Go to the link in my bio for my podcast. On a personal level, you can have a great day. You don't have to have a bad day on your birthday. You just don't want to over-identify with what's going on with the world, People often over-personalize events that have nothing to do with them, So you can feel bad for people, but you can still have a good day. Having a shitty day doesn't make their day better, okay? So, it's also time and place. You might have a great day when the rest of the world is sad, but maybe coming onto TikTok going, woo, woo, where everybody else is, upset is probably, bad taste. Certainly not empathetic, but you can still have a good day, So, yeah. Will there be a new lockdown? I don't think officials are ever going to do the right thing and actually lock us down the way we need to be locked down. But I do see COVID expanding next year. So I see most of what's happening through the end of the year being logistical, being supply chain, being weather related. But I don't actually see until near New Year's, then I see COVID starting to become more of an issue again. I don't see authorities doing right by the people. I just don't. I don't do what other astrologers do. I don't make a career out of talking about famous people. I actually give people practical events. If Biden lives or Biden dies, it does not impact this country in how it's run. Okay, it just doesn't. We have a constitution and there's a right of succession. I'm not going to necessarily jump on a train everybody else is. That's not how I get my street cred. I'll call earthquakes. I'll call supply chain. I've been talking about these things all year. I'm going to talk about other stuff that's more important. So I don't like to talk about celebrities. I didn't talk about the Gabby Petito case. I didn't talk about Britney Spears much. All I told was my people in Patreon shall have her liberty. But it's not my job to talk to people. Oh, cool. You booked a reading for November. I'm excited to meet you. Oh, you could have your birthday. Well, I did give a warning on January 6th. I actually did give a warning. It's what grew me. I came on really, really early in the morning. You guys can go look back and find the video. But on January 6th of this year, about 4 or 5 in the morning Pacific, it might have been 3 in the morning. I don't know. I was up late and I was looking at the chart again, and I went, oh shit. And I ran a chart for DC, and I was like, oh no, you can't go in there. And so I was like, hey, if you're in the DC area, don't go in. That aged well. Just saying, that aged well. So I did give a prediction. That grew me. Yes, you're east of the Rocky Mountains. The Rocky Mountains actually go up into Canada too. Well, hey, Franny, I'm sorry you're feeling down. But there you go. It'll be okay. You'll get through it. What industry will survive? Lots of industries will survive. No, I don't run the DC chart. I didn't run the DC chart off of the founding day. I ran it off of, it was the location I used for that day of January 6th. No, I ran a chart for the day and I used DC as the location. I do mundane astrology. I'm not going to explain it to you. It takes years to learn. So I don't give tips and tricks on it because it's technical. And I'll gatekeep the living shit out of it because people misuse astrology all the time. I say one little thing and people are going to run with it. So people can study with me. And I charge for you to study with me because I've spent 30 years acquiring knowledge and practice. It's what I do for a living. So kids are impacted by the way their parents deal with things. So if you make everything a tragedy and you make it like all about them being damaged, they're going to get damaged. You can make it okay as much as possible. Children have their own set of perceptions. I would be talking with them. I would be communicating with them. If you can't get all the presents this year because of a bad economy, don't make a big deal out of it. You know how many presents my great grandma used to get? She was born in 1899. And she used to tell this story at Christmas all the time. And when I was a kid, I thought, oh my God, she always tells this story. But I'm so glad she did because she died when I was 11. I'm 52. I still remember the story. She'd get an orange in her shoe, which I thought was gross because I was like, I don't want stuff put in my shoes. But she'd get an orange and some nuts in her shoe on Christmas Eve. And she'd get a doll. A doll. That's all she'd get. And that was like the only toys she got all year. Because that's how life was. Unless she made toys. And then I was really excited because my great grandpa would chime in. He goes, well, I would take my knife and I would whittle. And I was like, whoa, I want to whittle. So I would whittle my own toys. Except my dad wouldn't let me have a knife. So I used sandpaper. But I sandpapered wood and made toys because I thought that's cool. So we've been consumerists for a long time. And parents will feel really, really bad that they can't get their kids all the stuff. And I've been that parent. I get it. I raised kids. They don't need all the stuff. They need to know they're loved and they're safe and they're reasonably happy. Okay? That's what kids need. And so you could make things together. You could make memories together. Make sure you have things you can bake cookies with or make hot chocolate with. Right? Your grandma had an orange in their sock. Yeah, right? Yeah. Where time means more than material. Yeah, and I kind of raised my kids that way. We would pick something special they wanted. And they always got stuff. My stocking stuffers are like thebomb.com. I love doing stocking stuffers even now because those are the fun things. But honestly, neither one of my kids are into stuff because they weren't raised. I'm not a big consumerist person. So I like tech. I do, but I don't need every gadget. I like it as a tool, right? So, yeah. Oh, I'm glad. No, that's cool. If you can't afford Patreon, God bless you. Enjoy the podcast. That's what it's there for. I want to give people strategies and skills and give you a heads up. I've got a new episode I'll hopefully finish tonight. Hi, Julie. Or Juliet, sorry. Yeah, so it's important. You're not too late. I started studying in my mid-20s. It's not about how old or how young. It's about understanding it's a discipline and it takes a long time to be good at it. It takes practice and study. Most people who become professionals have mentors. Actual professionals, not just people who say they read charts. With COVID? Oh, with kids and COVID. Well, you've got the vaccines coming out for kids, so that's hopeful. But I think we don't want to be too cocky with that. I think we need to understand that we didn't get enough people vaccinated fast enough. Not the rest of the world isn't vaccinated all the way, and there's a potential for variants. And I don't want to scare people. I just want you to be vigilant about your health and wear masks. Make your kids wear masks and wash their hands. I've had a lot of teachers in chart readings, especially through the summer before school started, and I was like, give your students prizes for washing their hands. You know, just washing their hands, especially the little ones. Get hands washed, masks on. You know, I think the biggest tragedy we have is people freaking out about pieces of cloth on their face. You know, we wear shoes for a reason because our feet are dirty. When you sneeze or you cough, you're spreading germs everywhere anyway, which totally grosses me out, by the way. I hate going in public in regular years, forget COVID, regular years where people are like, coughing and sneezing and spitting and germs. I don't want the flu. I don't want a cold. I don't want RSV. I don't want any of that crap. Wear a freaking mask. We don't need that. Just wear a mask because there's stuff coming in the spring. When Jupiter and Neptune conjunct, that is a big expansion of a virus. So if you got kids, it's got to be scary. I can't imagine, you know, but also what adds to that is how we communicate about it, you know, so it's hard when we're scared. I get that, you know. I'm glad my kids are grown. I'll be selfish enough to say it. I'm glad my kids are grown. But I'm relieved both my kids are vaccinated, and I can guarantee you before they're adults. They're full-grown adults. And I was like, are you washing your hands? Are you wearing your masks? What are you doing when you go out? You know, because I was like, and then they were doing the same back to me, you know, because we wanted to make sure each other were safe. So having little ones has got to be really, really scary. So... right? And I had that policy to stay home if you're sick, like before COVID. I've always considered it the rudest thing on earth to have a fever or something and go out in public. And we need to change our laws and our labor laws around this. We can't be having people have to go into work because they can't afford not to. So that labor movement, COVID has done us some favors. People have had enough. People had a chance to sit down and think, and people are going to be able to start now collectivizing and organizing and saying, you know what, if I'm going to live this life, I want it to have the best quality of life I can. Some of us kind of started on that quest a long time ago. You know, I went indie a long time ago, mostly because I had to. There weren't jobs that were going to hire me with my qualifications. I was kind of overqualified for everything where I lived. I lived in a rural area, and I was just that weirdo chick who thought a lot. And so I had to be independent. And then once I did that, man, I never wanted to work for anybody else again. And I did in 2019 just because a job landed in my lap that I'd always wanted to do. And it was perfect through the pandemic, you know. So it was just kind of perfect timing, and it allowed me to do what I was going to do. And then I went back to being in business for myself again. I think not everybody is designed to do that, but we are designed to collaborate, build teams, make workers co-ops, and then also hold companies accountable for making sure they pay their people correctly and give them good working conditions. So, yeah. Right. Well, we don't have to be scared to live life, but you want to still wear a freaking mask. You can accessorize. I think we could make sexy masks. There's some really pretty masks out there. I don't see it as any different than, you know, I could say, I want to be free. I don't want to wear my contact lenses. I don't want to have to wear my glasses because they make me look stupid. And then I'd kill somebody driving because I'm blind as a freaking bat. Right? So it's the same thing. You don't have to be afraid to live your life, but wear a freaking mask. It doesn't impede your actions. Hell, my boyfriend and I even forgot to take our masks off, and we kissed with our masks on. It was still sexy. It was actually cute. So there you go. Yeah. You know, it's very likely we won't see the end of it till 2025, because I think it may take that long to adjust to various variants and things, that it may take some other treatments and things. So I don't think your mom's necessarily wrong about seeing it go for 5 years. It's certainly not over next year. Now they're going to stop talking about it, you know, but... Right? Masquerade masks, they make masks. When mask helps with your allergies too. Yeah, no, right? I never had pollen allergies growing up, but I didn't grow up in Southern California. So when everything kind of blooms in the spring, I noticed how much nicer it was. Yeah, my allergies weren't bad. My daughter hasn't had any colds. She tends to get a lot of colds. She didn't get any colds. Her allergies were better. So we're all kind of like on the mask. Like, yeah, who wants to get sick? So going forward into 2021, 2022, we've got quite a bit going on. I did a how to prepare, by the way. I did a how to prepare seminar back in September. You can access the recording by going to the link in my bio. You can either stream it for like $12 for 24 hours on Vimeo, or you can just buy it forever to have to refer to for $59, because it's a 2-hour workshop I did live back in September 17th. So you can do that. You're getting concerned. California is getting, yes, I agree, Beth. I've been concerned as well. I'm seeing a lot of people not wearing masks. I got weird looks in the grocery store when I went out this afternoon and wearing my mask, and I'm like, I'm not the one who needs to be worried. I'm fully vaxxed, but I'm going to wear my mask. I just don't want to be the breakthrough case. Well, what happens for those? Well, that's why the rest of us need to get vaccinated if you're having trouble, but you want to wear a mask and keep your protocol going then, and be cautious. You know, I wouldn't be going to concerts and, you know, rubbing elbows with people. I would stay socially distanced as much as possible. You know, that's just going to be part of it. You know, you can only do what you can do. At least you tried. You know, some people do have reactions. There's going to be a percentage of people who do to everything. Yeah. I do too. I'm kind of I will just wear masks. I'll take it off in private. It will just become part of my wardrobe. I don't see a problem with it, you know. So like before COVID, I worked but in 2019, I told you guys I took a job. I was working for a Taiwanese laptop company, and one of my colleagues, this was like right when I got hired at the end of 2019, it was before we ever knew about COVID. And we were hearing about COVID in October, November, but this would have been like September. And she had the sniffles, and she put on a mask, and she said, you know, I do this for you. And I was like, well, thank you. You know, so that's kind of the attitude. Like, I don't want to get other people sick. And then I was like, well, now I know I don't want to get sick. I'm going to wear it, but it also does prevent other people. So, you know, we need to think about other people and not just ourselves. You can be self-actualized and think about other people. She always had very, very classy masks. Do astrologers use other star placements? You mean actual, like, fixed stars? Yeah, like Aldebaran and things like that. Yeah, we can use fixed stars. I do for more complex things. Like, if I'm really geeking out, I'll look at fixed stars. I'll look at, you know, things like that. Normally, I don't have to. I'm really accurate using very fundamental, mundane astrology. It's just not taught anymore. But I use fundamentals, and I'm very, very, very accurate. But yeah, you can look at fixed stars. Basically, every celestial body out there has some kind of impact, but if you know your basics, it's enough of to say what's going on here. You know, if you know how to read your basics and you understand the width, depth, and breadth of the subject, then you're going to be accurate. But yeah, you can look at, sometimes things just line up just right. In fact, I'm pretty sure that T-square boom is happening on Spica. I'm gonna have to look that up, but I'm pretty sure. Do I have a favorite planet? Oh, I'm a Libra moon. I don't really pick favorites. I love them all, each one, for what they represent. So, but I would have to say the planet I made friends with the most is Saturn. I love the eloquence of Saturn. I love the I love the straightness of Saturn. Like the it's like pure structure, you know, like when you feel into Saturn. I love the surety of Saturn. I know a lot of people talk about the restriction, but there's so much discipline in Saturn. And you don't want to be so disciplined. You don't, yeah. So you thought I'd say something. Yeah, I love discipline. So I'm a very disciplined person. And so I love that about Saturn. I didn't love Saturn very much as a young astrologer. I was going through some really shitty Saturn transits. And I was like, fuck Saturn. But I love the eloquence of Saturn. And I love the different ways Saturn can express strength. But each of the planets themselves is very beautiful. That's why I'll be offering up workshops on the planets every month. So this month is Saturn. We're going to be doing the Saturn workshop first. Understanding what a Saturn return is. Understanding Saturn through the houses. Those are two separate workshops. Because one, we're just going to talk about Saturn through the houses in a natal chart. And then we're going to do the Saturn return workshop. And I have a scholarship for that. If you guys are interested in that 90-minute workshop where I'm going to talk about what spooky Saturn seminars, I'm going to really explain what the process is and then what the Saturn return chart is, because it's a divinatory chart. And a lot of people don't do that kind of astrology anymore. I think because people are impatient and are unwilling to actually study and learn. Everybody wants to be an expert right now instead of understanding that it's a methodical process to become an astrologer. And so actually, I talk about that on the podcast episode I'm recording right now. I explain how to learn astrology and what it takes to learn astrology. And it doesn't matter how old you are, you start at the beginning. And you take things methodically. You don't run before you can walk. Everybody wants to be an expert right now. Partly it's the intellectual information, and partly it's the practice. You read thousands and thousands of charts. It's one of the reasons I'm really, really good. I've done this a long time, and I've read hundreds of thousands of charts. Observational and applied astrology, not just, I'm just going to stick with what the book said. I've read probably 100,000 charts plus at this point. I wouldn't even know. At this point. Yeah. Right? Yeah, you're going to like it, Rita. You're going to like it. Does the Saturn chart? Yeah, the Saturn return chart shows the theme of the next 28 and a half years. And then the next Saturn return chart sets the theme. But you'll start feeling, just like a solar return, you start feeling the next solar return about 3 months ahead. You'll start feeling the themes. The same goes with Saturn. That's the process where we start feeling things. But that chart itself is set and shows a theme for 28 and a half years. Thank you. Do I offer payment plans? Not on the price points I have right now. I just don't, just because with payment plans like that, it ends up costing more to do as far as on my end. But yeah. I'm sorry you've been on edge. The sun's chart? You mean solar returns? Or are you talking about heliocentric astrology? The heliocentric astrology is fascinating, but we don't live on the sun. We live on Earth, and I deal with people, and people live on Earth and have a geocentric point of view and shape their reality based on their perceptions. Again, heliocentric astrology is very fascinating, but it doesn't really help much with living here on planet Earth. And most people haven't really figured out how to do that well enough to worry about anything else outside of it. Our job is to be here. As Ram Dass used to say, be here now. Oh, that's cool. Davram, I didn't know about that. That's cool. Yeah, and I do have a scholarship for the Saturn workshop. You'll save 50%. Scholarship 1. So if you want to sign up for you'll save 50% on it. So scholarship 1 is the code. You just go to the link in my bio to register for the class, and it'll save you 50%. And that's only good for like the next week or so. So make sure you use it. And that's for the Saturn return workshop. No, I don't discuss anything with other astrologers. No. The only thing I discussed with another astrologer was the demise of Facebook that I see coming. In 2020, I talked to a friend of mine. I've been trying to get off Facebook and get his stuff actually cleaned up online because he's a brilliant astrometeorologist. And so I was like, hey, dude, I'm like, I've been looking at Facebook's chart, and they're going to take a nosedive starting at the end of 2022, 2023. They're going to be going. I think they're going to be litigated to death. You need to get off Facebook. So sometimes we'll give each other warnings because everybody specializes in different things. Not everybody sees everything all at once. So sometimes, but I don't discuss my predictions. Astrologers tend to guard their own predictions and their own work pretty carefully. That's our bread and butter, so it's not open source, because it's our ability to analyze, our knowledge base, and it sets our credibility. So all those astrologers who copy each other, they have no credibility. They're not astrologers. They're interested in astrology, but they're not accurate. They're just copying other people. They're like entertainment. But that's a difference between being an actual astrologer and being entertainment. Yeah, I looked at Amazon. I did look at Bill Gates. Bill Gates is not going to have a fun 2022. He's actually not been having fun behind the scenes last year and this year. And next year is also not fun for him. Bezos doesn't get it. Also not fun for him. Bezos doesn't get it protected. But it's got some stuff that hits it next year. Oh, nice. Heard? I haven't. Thank you for telling me about that. Yeah. Yeah. Right. Exactly. Yeah. I haven't liked Facebook ever. I'm not really worried about partisan politics right now or who's running for what for how many cookies. I'm worried more about what's happening with the weather and the economy. I think they've made politics some kind of sporting event, and it's a way to distract people. Be involved in your local politics more than the national scene. There's only so much you can do on the national scene besides vote. Get involved in your local politics. It's absolutely essential going forward. Yeah, I'm not a fan of them. I never have been. I was on because I had to be. It was kind of funny. I got asked to teach at this online business school back in like 2014, 2013. I don't remember exactly when, but they asked me to teach. And I was like, well, I'm really busy with my own project. I don't know. But they made a good offer, and I was like, okay, I'll teach for you. And all their stuff was on Facebook, and I was like, I freaking hate Facebook. Because, they were also asking me to moderate their groups, and I was like, I can moderate your groups, but I hate Facebook. Facebook is the dumbest layout ever. I really like old-fashioned bulletin boards and things like that. So I've never liked Facebook. So I really haven't been active in quite a long time. Really since like 2016, I even started a new account, but it was mostly, to talk to certain people that are in my life, but I don't even go on anymore. I just don't. No, I don't think Instagram and WhatsApp are going to go down with Facebook. I think Facebook's going to get broken up, and I think Facebook itself is so boring, it's just going to die of natural causes, you know, and really after what they did to MySpace, which I loved MySpace. So, you know, Facebook was so boring, but, you know, you didn't have to know anything to use Facebook. You know, MySpace was cool. You had to learn HTML to mess with it, right? It taught people stuff. But yeah. Yeah, it is. Yep. Yeah, I think, yeah, exactly. They'll be sold. They're not going to be given to anybody else, but they'll be sold. Are you here to face karmic things or learn lessons? No, you're not here to face karma, or you're not here to learn lessons. You're here to have a range of experiences, good and bad. Karma is just the law of cause and effect. Okay, this idea of punishment is designed to control you. Same with lessons. Your guides are never sending you lessons. Your guides are only giving you encouragement. Okay, we have cause and effect. Cause and effect would be like consequences. There's good consequences. There's not just bad consequences. Saturn rules consequences in general. But this whole idea of crime and punishment, that comes from a controlling mindset. That is a controlling dogma. You know, even all these people who argue over the old gods. Are you kidding? You know how creative human beings are? We created the gods. We made them. We named them. You know, so believe what you want, but at the same time, own your power, because we are very creative beings and our thoughts are powerful. And enough people think about one thing, it creates a thought form, and you feed that thought form with either adoration, fear, respect, whatever, it gains ground. You know, Neil Gaiman wasn't that far off when he wrote American Gods. Belief empowers things. That's why in metaphysics you're taught, guard your thoughts. Guard your thoughts. There's a reason for that. Yeah. Right? The old blogs, yeah. It might if they can pull it off. I'm learning. I actually talk a little bit about how to train your Mercury in my Astro Guide Volume 1 on instinct and intuition. 90% of what most people consider intuition is actually instinct. Those are your gut feelings. That's the lunar instinct. Your Mercury or your mind is that what actually deals with what you guys might think of downloads, those thoughts that pop into your head. The more you know how to train your mind and think deliberately, as well as guard your thoughts, meaning if you're constantly thinking negative thoughts, you're not necessarily manifesting things, but you're empowering energy and your focus in a direction that isn't necessarily the best one. And I'm not telling you to be delusional and pretend, you know, la 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 la, something isn't there. If there's an elephant in the middle of the room, there's an elephant in the middle of the room. But you can think about the elephant in the middle of the room in one of two ways. You can be like, oh no, poor me, there's an elephant in the room, and totally disempower yourself. Or you can go, I got an elephant in the room. Now what am I going to do with it? It's how you think about it. Guarding your thoughts, being in charge of your own mental energy is really what shapes your reality. Again, I'm not ever telling people to put blinders on. Well, some days I do tell people to put, if it's a really shitty, mundane day, I'll tell people to put blinders on and be like, look, if it's not directly impacting you, just do this, keep your head down and focus on what you want, because you'll be completely disempowered by the overwhelming outrage around you. But it's about not getting caught up in the fray. I have the intuition and instinct guide where I talk about Mercury. I'll also be teaching a class on Mercury. Every single month I'll be teaching a class on planets. This month is Saturn, and Saturn returns. Then we'll talk about Mercury. Yeah, probably Mercury will be next year. But yeah, Mercury, Venus, Mars, those will go in a series. So, yeah. Absolutely. But the instinct and intuition guide, that talks about the moon and Mercury. So those are on my website. They're $5, you know. And if you're a patron, go through the Patreon. They're in there somewhere. I will be doing every single planet once a month. That's one of the reasons I'm giving scholarships, because I know it adds up. But, you know, I've spent a lot of money on my astrological education. I paid my mentors. I paid my teachers. I went to workshops. And I put in the time. So, and again, this is what I do. So, but I try to make it as affordable as possible. So, you know it can cost a lot. I want people to have good information too. With the market, it's probably really shaky. It just depends on if they artificially prop it up again or not. I don't think they're going to be able to artificially prop it up. But we'll see. We'll see what they do. I think we're going to have some major economic issues start happening as of this month. And I think it's going to start in China, and it's going to kind of ripple out all over the place. I think the Evergrande situation is really showing up in the charts. With with Venus in Sag right now, that's foreign financial affairs. When I'm running the charts from my end, it's looking that way. Yeah, well, you know, traditionally astrology is not a self-study course. Traditionally, if you're an actual astrologer, you have a lineage you can point to. So what's the best season to take how to learn your birth chart? Anytime. It's a revolving 12-week class, so you can start anytime, and then I do the meetups where you can ask me questions. Yeah, I think we'll really start seeing defaults come in probably this winter, especially once Uranus stations direct in January, and I think by the end of 2022 we'll see definitely some issues in the housing market. People forget that a lot of those Chinese real estate companies, the ones that are in trouble right now, they actually invest in real estate in the United States. So we'll see. Pisces season? Well, it would be when the sun is in Pisces, which is usually February and March. Oh, it's not 2008 all over again. It's 2008 completed. 2008 was when Pluto went into Capricorn. So we're going to watch things fall over time as we get towards, it'll be a couple of years. You know, I knew 2008 was going to we knew 2008 was going to happen at some point. Anybody I saw that bubble building back then. It was just like, yeah, so cool. Oh, I look forward to teaching you this session. Yeah. What does it look for Taiwan? You know, I haven't run Taiwan's chart to look at it. I can though. You know, if I was Taiwan, I'd be a little bit nervous with what's going on right now. So, because, you know, there's still, even with independence, there's still so much financial ties to China, so much manufacturing, you know, base materials, etc. There's a lot there. Pluto ducks out of Capricorn and into Aquarius in 2023-ish, 2024, but then it goes back into Cap, and then 2024, in the end of 2024, like November, it's in Aquarius for the next 31 years. It takes a really long time to get through Aquarius. Everything, you know, Pluto slows way down in Aquarius. Oh, do you have a bad obstacle in your chart? I'm not sure what you mean by that. I don't use the term bad and good. I come from a neutral space. So you have active and productive, and you have supportive. Okay, so what a lot of people will call bad, I call active or creative. Because art, planets, human beings cannot be created without friction. Okay? No matter what, whether a star bursting into life or a human baby being conceived, there's all some kind of friction that happens. Some is more fun than others. But that's creative energy. And then we have supportive energy. So, yeah. Oh, what session to take? Oh, sorry. Well, the personal chart is your natal chart reading, and that's just step by step around your chart where I tell you about you and translate your astrological chart to you. The personal transit reading is more about timing, and we look at the next 3-4 months. The hidden treasures reading is a soul. It's about embodiment of the soul in the physical body and meeting your soul's purpose within your life path, which includes having fun and having jobs and living a human life. And then we have the career life path, which is more focused on actual career moves, etc. And then I have the year ahead. So if you want to learn about your chart, the natal chart is the perfect place to learn. That's the personal chart reading. Sorry about that. And Pluto is all about transformation and alchemy. So it undoes that which no longer serves us. You could also call it forced evolution, where we're really forced to grow. Pluto transits are very painful because we're letting go of a lot of things in life we were taught to believe are really, really normal and the way things are supposed to be. So like when Pluto was going over my ascendant, when Pluto was in Scorpio, which let me tell you, that was intense. I really had to let go of I had a really fixed idea about how life was supposed to be and how I was supposed to be in life. And it didn't matter how much I achieved, what I did, how much money I made, how many accolades I had, how awarded I was. No matter how many impossible things I did before breakfast, my life was falling apart. And I kept thinking, what am I doing wrong? I've done everything that I was supposed to do. I followed this map. I didn't know astrology yet. It was that transit that led me to being an astrologer. I was like, but wait, I was told if I just did this and this and this, and I ticked off these boxes, and I towed the line, and I was this person, everything, I would, that's just how life was supposed to be, and I would have this position, and it didn't matter. No matter what I did, it was like the ground was falling out from underneath me because I wasn't self-describing myself and my own success. I was making everybody else proud. My parents were really proud of me. Everybody was proud of me. I was a stunning example of excellence. And I was miserable. And on the inside, everything was falling apart. And I couldn't understand why I wasn't happy. And so that was Pluto in the Scorpio. That was that transit. So when you go through Pluto transits, a lot of times the things you think, this is how life is supposed to be. This is what I'm supposed to do. A lot of that falls apart and you have to reinvent yourself. It forces evolution. Yeah, Pluto is in Capricorn right now. Yeah, Pluto is in Capricorn. It entered Capricorn in 2008. It exits in 2024 and ingresses into Aquarius. Capricorn is about structure. It's about authority. We're watching all global systems that do not serve the people in general. Okay, so global community, we have an economic system and a use of resources on this planet that does not support human life or the planet. And this is where we face consequences because Capricorn is about consequences. So there's going to be a dissolving of that which no longer serves us. And so that's some of the reason, centralized supply chain, that was the dumbest invention ever. It's only been around since, the 90s and got worse in the 2000s. It was always stupid. We never should have done that. It put all countries at risk, to be honest. You shouldn't be importing everything from one spot, different centralized areas. It might be convenient for production, but it is inconvenient if you have bad weather or natural disasters. And we're running into a time where we're going to have kind of all of that mix happening. Yeah. Thank you, Rita. But yeah, so there's a lot going on. So we're going to see this time escalate as the moon enters Aries, and when it is in opposition to Mars on the 19th, and it's squaring off with Pluto in Capricorn, just like Mars will be squaring off with Pluto in Capricorn. So Mars in Libra will be squaring Pluto in Capricorn. The moon will be squaring Pluto in Capricorn. The moon will be in Aries, and it'll be opposing Mars in Libra. And that's what I'm calling the T-square of doom. Actually, boom. It's a boom. It will be very explosive energy, and we'll probably see real explosions. It could be volcanic. It could be a chemical factory. It could be bombs. It could be a lot of different things. It could be explosive weather. I already said coming into October, we would have very inclement weather. I told people to prepare for it. And I gave a lot of forecasts about that. Like since the spring, I've been talking about this. So there's already a rise in women's empowerment that's been going on. Nothing ever happens in a vacuum. I think you'll see more collectivism. And women need to empower themselves. They need to stop waiting for a time. They just need to do it. So, as my Aries grandmother would say, don't ask for equality. You don't get it if you're asking for it. Take it. So, yeah. Is there a rise in cult or cult seeking? No, it's the same as it's always been. And whenever there's uncertainty, people do that. No, it's not really. I mean, when you look at Christianity as a whole, it's been around for a long time, and it's one of the biggest personality cults out there, and that personality isn't even alive. So, there you go. People don't like to take responsibility for their own path. They like to hand it over to other people. And that's why religions and cults get away with it. Yeah, my lovely Aries grandmother, right? Yeah, you're just young. Look up Hale-Bopp, the Hale-Bopp comet. Look up 2012. Look up 2008. There's always been cults. And honestly, again, look at all the religions in the world. They're all technically cults. Yep. Only if people start using their minds, as long as you're handing your agency over to anything. And that's why I teach astrology the way I do, because I always remind you, astrology is reflective, not causal. You can sit, in fact, I talk about that in the podcast episode I'm working on today as well. I talked in the first segment, I talk about, a lot of people use astrology as an excuse. They just say, oh, this is in my natal chart and I can't be any other way. That's bullshit. Energy expresses in a multitude of ways. So, and then people say, but it's hard to change. Yeah, it is. It is, but you can. You can. We need to be more thinking. As Pluto goes into Aquarius, it's extremely important to train your intellect. Extremely important. And you may not be the most popular person because you're not bringing all the brewskis, but you've got to use your mind. So, yeah. Yeah, well, they're all the same thing in my opinion. People just like to hand their power over, and because it's scary to be in charge of yourself, and realize your own responsibility in things. It's easier to blame a deity. It's easier to blame something that we can't see, taste, or smell, or touch, and not take responsibility for our part in it, And a lot of heinous things happen in the name of belief, whether it's religion or culture, So, how long does it take me to record? Hey, how you doing, Pesto with Zesto? How long does it take me to record? A couple of hours usually. Sometimes I have some false starts or I get interrupted. Like today, I did some before my readings, and then I actually did other stuff after my readings because I taught in the morning. Sunday's kind of a light day, but I still work on Sundays. I still need to rework my schedule. I was trying to get as many people in as possible, and my scheduling tool doesn't let me like, I didn't realize how I could block off time individually, and so I couldn't like set certain dates for certain readings, and so I worked myself into a corner, and I've got to like start blocking time off now so that I get more time to create content, because I'm trying to create really affordable ways for you to watch like educational videos that are short. So I'll have my longer master classes, but I'll have some beginner courses that you can access, you know, for way cheaper, really easy on your budget. So, because my main goal is you guys get good information. And I'm really dismayed by a lot of the popular astrology out there that A, oversimplifies things, and B, scares the shit out of people. And it's ridiculous. You know, it is hard to self-actualize. It's a process, and it's a process we're never done with. I could easily dress the aesthetic. Okay, I clean up really, really well. And I could speak ever so softly and tell you, dear ones, and my beloveds, I could mesmerize you. But I don't want to do that. I want you to hear the authenticity. I want you to own your own power. I want you to have your own agency. If you want, I hand it back. I don't want your power, you know? So I'm trying to give you guys really good information that will help hone your minds, your hearts, so you can live more authentically, so you can be happier. Is it hard? Yes. I'm not gonna lie. It is. I do it. I can say I've done it, but if I'd done all the actualization work, I'd be dead. Like, because we're never done until we're done. And I still have a lot of life ahead. So, yeah. Aw. I am so glad, Molly. You're so welcome. Yeah, it's in the realm of you're supposed to be doing something here. You know, you're supposed to be doing something. You know what that something is? You're supposed to be living. You're supposed to be having a range of experiences. You're supposed to have broken hearts. You're supposed to have beloveds. You're supposed to have favorite pets or trees or a flower that you love. You're supposed to meet people and meet new people and learn things and make mistakes and have accidents and live through things, tragedies and blessings. You're supposed to have it all. That is the purpose of being alive. And this idea that you're supposed to be some kind of chosen one is a control mechanism too, because, you know, I have people contacting me all the time, and the big question they ask, they're not asking it in these words, but it always sums up to me, tell me I'm special. Tell me I'm special. You are special. You had a 1 in 400 trillion chance of being human. It takes 25,000 years to replicate an astrology chart. Okay? Because everybody takes their first breath at a different time. That's technically the time. Not when your head comes out of mama, but when you take your first breath, unless you're my daughter, because she came out of me with her mouth open. Her first breath, her legs were still inside. So luckily I could see the clock. But yeah. Doesn't always bring back exes, and it is not always bad. Retrograde does not mean bad. It is a time to not move forward on things. Exes can show up. It depends on what sign Mercury is in and how it's moving through your chart. Right? Your ex has been trying hard. See, I have all my exes blocked. I'm sure there have been a few trying, especially since Mercury was on my moon, but I had that block function set. Oh, the Astrologers Handbook by Francis Sayokian and Louis Aker is fantastic. I love that book. I recommend it. Yeah. It's a great book. I have one. I've had one for so long, like it's missing its cover. Where'd it go? Oh, here it is. It's missing its cover. That's how long I've had this book. I've had it forever. But yeah, it's a great little cookbook. This is considered an astrological cookbook. So they're great. They're a good idea, you know, to have around. They give you good information. It's a great resource. Oh, there you go. There you go. M&Ms. All right, guys, it's getting late and I need to go to bed because I got to get up in the morning. What school would I recommend for astrology? I teach astrology. Yeah, my daughter was 4 days of labor. I completely get it. Like, technically, like, what was it? Like 36 and a half hours. But yeah, it was a long freaking labor and no drugs. Love you guys. I'm going to go to bed.